most marginalized among us, and for the love of all creation in the sacred space that is DuPage County. May love hold strong here in the hearts of these people. May they shine as a beacon of peace, equity, justice, and love for all. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend, for those words. I think we all needed that. And I would like to ask the Deputy Clerk to please take the roll.
Cahill. Here. Chaplin. Here. Childress.
Yes.
Covert. Here. Desart. Here. Eckhoff. Here. Evans.
Here.
Galassi. Here. Garcia.
Here.
Guston. Here. Krajewski. Here. LaPlante. Here. Ozog. Here. Rutledge. Here. Shorzy. Here. Tornatori. Here. You.
Here.
And Zay.
Okay, I would like to invite Member Deacon Garcia and Member Don Desart up to the podium. I'd also like to invite Ann Hubling, Melissa Burns, and Sarah Heron to the podium. Okay. National Stroke Awareness Month is observed in the United States every year during May. This month aims to create public awareness about stroke risk factors and to help reduce the occurrence of stroke in the USA. A stroke is a medical condition where poor blood flow to the brain results in cell death. Proclamation sponsors Deacon Garcia and Don Desart hope we will take this opportunity to learn about ways to prevent strokes and to respond quickly when we see someone who is having a stroke. Joining us today are Ann Hubling, Melissa Burns, and Sarah Heron from Marion Joy Rehabilitation Hospital. Marion Joy is a fantastic local treatment facility and resource for patients and families impacted by stroke. I'll read the proclamation and then ask our sponsors and guests to share a bit more about their personal experiences. Whereas nearly 1/4 of United States residents can expect to suffer a stroke sometime in their lifetime. And whereas someone in the U.S. has a stroke every 40 seconds, and whereas recognizing the symptoms of a stroke can make the difference between a full recovery and permanent disability. And whereas the symptoms of a stroke can be remembered by the acronym Be Fast. Face dropping, arm weakness, speech difficulty, and time to call 911. And whereas many stroke victims need intense therapy to overcome deficits caused by stroke, including physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and more. And whereas there are numerous therapists, caregivers, and healthcare professionals across the county who assist stroke victims, including Marion Joy Rehabilitation Hospital. And whereas DuPage County appreciates Marion Joy Rehabilitation Hospital and all the therapists, caregivers, and healthcare professionals for their important work to help stroke victims on their road to recovery. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Deborah A. Conroy, Chair of the DuPage County Board, and members of the County Board do hereby designate May as Stroke Awareness Month in DuPage County. And okay, all in favor? Okay. All right, enacted and approved this May 23rd, 2023 in Wheaton, Illinois. Okay.
Good morning. So I applaud Member Deacon Garcia for honoring Stroke Awareness Month and how important it is. And she invited me to join along because I had a stroke back in 2011. I had a horrible headache one day, and I went to, I was in Joliet at the time, so I went to St. Joseph's Hospital, and I was in triage for 5 hours. They thought I was having a migraine, even though I told them I was not having a migraine. And I had never had a migraine. And I was in the hospital for several weeks, or for a full week, and thankfully I got out of the hospital with no deficits. I was totally fine, and I went back to my life. That was a a bleed. 3 weeks later, I had a clot in the same place. I was serving on the District 204 Board of Education. I was back in executive session. I started feeling weird. I went out to a cubicle and I collapsed. I couldn't talk. I couldn't walk. They called the EMTs. I couldn't tell them what was going on. And I was in the hospital for a week or two, and they said that you had a stroke. After my stroke, again, I couldn't walk. If you talked to me, you would have thought I had 2 bottles of wine, and that lasted for about a year, just much mouth. And after my hospitalization, I was moved to the wonderful facility, Mary and Joy, and I was there for about 3 weeks, and they were mean to me. I'm joking. They were wonderful. They had me like place dimes for occupational therapy. Dimes, placing dimes on top of each other for my fine motor skills, and then they'd knock them down. And then they would have me make a bed for my physical therapy, and then they'd rip it apart and have me do it again. They were wonderful, and within 3 weeks, I could walk again, I could move again. I still couldn't talk, but then I did outpatient therapy and then I kind of felt like I was dead man walking, so I went to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota in January and had everything done. Blood work, a spinal tap, several angiograms where they go up through your groin into your brain to find out what's going on. And they found out that I had one blood vessel in my brain that had a reduced wall than any other blood vessel. So I could have had this pop at 2 or 5 or 25 or never, but that gave me peace of mind that everything was okay. But again, I wanted to join Member Deacon Garcia to honor Mary and Joy because they are true miracle workers and angels. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Dessart. You know, we've talked about this often. I did not have a stroke, but my husband had a major hemorrhagic brain bleed in 2015. It's called the Widowmaker for a reason. And luckily at his place of work where he had the stroke, they did know the signs of a stroke. So they were able to call for this stroke, ambulance. So they were able to get him the treatment that he needed right away. 2 people came into the hospital where he was at. One made it and one didn't. So I am very grateful my husband is here today. I want you all to be aware that you really need to be aware of how you're feeling. If you're feeling funny, go see someone. Don't ignore what's going on. And his issue was that he had high blood pressure. If you have high blood pressure, get off the salt, stop eating it, and get medicine for it because that's a huge issue. He was taken, it was in the ICU for 3 months. That's where we sat for 3 months. And then afterward, he went to a wonderful place called Mary and Joy. He was not able to walk. He was able to talk. And if you know my husband, he's a talker. I thought I'd get a break. I did not. But he wasn't able to walk. And to this day, his whole left side is numb. But he's able, because of the work they did at the physical therapy at Mary and Joy, he's able to walk. He's able to work. And he is the wonderful person that I've always known him to be. So I am so thankful for the work they do. I'm not going to repeat the mean things they do, but they are very mean at Mary and Joy. But please, I've given you each one of the flyers. Make sure that you watch for those signs, and make sure that you watch out for your friends, and make sure that you make sure that you're doing good well too. So I'm going to let them talk about the wonderful work they do, because I'm so grateful that they are in our area here. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. I am Ann Hubling, and I'm the president and chief nurse at Mary and Joy. And I want to introduce 2 individuals that I brought along with me. Sarah Herron, who is manager of rehab services. Sarah has been at Mary and Joy for 18 years and worked on the stroke unit, and she is also an occupational therapist. And then also Melissa Burns. And Melissa has been with Mary and Joy for 17 years and also started on the stroke unit. Her current role is program manager of quality. And so they not only are some of those folks that do those mean things, I guess, but really make a difference. And so I asked them to come along. Just to share, in 1972, The Wheaton Franciscan Sisters started Marion Joy Rehabilitation Hospital. So last year in September, we celebrated 50 years here in Wheaton. We currently have 125 inpatient beds, and we serve about 2,900 inpatients a year and 40,000 visits on our outpatient at the Wheaton campus. We care for multiple patients with multiple issues, so musculoskeletal, patients who have had amputation or severe fractures. We care for individuals that have had spinal cord, folks that have neuromuscular or neurological diseases. We also have many traumatic and non-traumatic brain injury patients. We have both inpatient and outpatient for pediatrics. And then, of course, we have our stroke program. Our stroke program is the largest population that we serve. We care for about 800 patients a year on the inpatient side, so about 27% of our patients do have stroke. And the program has been recognized by the Joint Commission since 2013 as an excellent stroke program for not only the programmatic focuses that we do, but also the metrics and outcomes that we achieve. We're very much thrilled to be honored today by DuPage County Board, and we're just thrilled to be part of this community. As was mentioned, stroke is a big issue in our community. 795,000 patients a year, or Americans, are going to have a stroke, and 610 of those will have their first stroke. So many people do have a second one. It's the leading cause of serious long-term disability, and it reduces mobility in more than half of folks that are 65 and older. And I got that all from the CDC, so there's a lot of information out there if you want to look up more stats. The work that we do is holistic in nature, and it really builds on the legacy of the Wheaton Franciscan Sisters. It's led by a rehabilitation physician, and of course we have all our therapists, our physical therapists, occupational, our speech therapists. We have nurses, we have chaplains, we have psychologists, we have dietary, we have pharmacy, so it's a whole team approach. And everyone works together to improve people's function and independence. And then in addition to that intense inpatient therapy program that you learned about, we have a lot on the outpatient. We have some special programs to get people back driving. And we're also very proud of our Aphasia Center. That's where folks have a very safe place to come and regain their language skills and to feel how to get their independence so that they can get back into the community and get as much function back. So again, very proud to serve the residents of DuPage County. And on behalf of Northwestern Medicine and Marion Joy, I want to thank you for this recognition. Thank you very much.
Okay, Member Rutledge.
I just want to commend Marion Joy and actually Member Schwarzy last year at a candidate event at Cantini. One of the candidates for the Forest Preserve had his second stroke. Member Schwarzy helped him out, got him the help he needed. They got him to the hospital where unfortunately he had an aneurysm and he ended up in your facility. And when I first visited him, he said, wow, and yes, that's all he could say. He's in pretty good shape. He just got his driver's license back, but I commend you for, oh my God, every week that I came to see him, he made progress. He's still got some aphasia, but he's still working on that as well. So thanks for all you do for everybody that's in dire need. Thank you. And Member Schwarzy.
Okay, I'd like to invite Erin Alman to the podium. On March 24th, I was pleased to host a meeting of the Chicago Metropolitan Agency on Planning, along with my fellow county board chairs from the region. The topic was primarily regional transit. The future of Chicagoland transit has certainly been on our minds and in the news. How do our transit systems react to the changing post-COVID workplace? And how do we fund it fairly so that all of our interests are represented? Those are some of the questions that CMAP Executive Director Erin Alman will discuss here in her presentation today. Erin, the floor is yours.
Thank you and good morning. Thank you, Chair Conroy, for the time this morning and members of the board for listening to us talk about this important issue. I know that it impacts many stakeholders across the region, and DuPage has a strong network of transit that you all care about and that gets people to the places that they need to go. We are working on a project, and we're calling it the Plan of Action for Regional Transit, or PART for short. The General Assembly has directed us to develop this report here, and really they've asked us to look at recommendations that will address the future funding of transit sustainably. So again, we appreciate the opportunity this morning. Before I dive into this report, I just wanted to highlight a couple notes on transit's crucial role here in the Chicago region here. You know, we don't just care about transit for transit's sake. It's not, you know, the ends, it's the means of getting people to places across our region. It improves mobility for folks across the region. You know, as we were thinking about how travel demand might change over post-COVID, we noted that if 25% of people across our region chose to not take transit anymore and choose to drive, we would see 192,000 hours of additional congestion and delay on our road system. You know, it really strengthens our regional economy, thinking about how different households and different households with varied incomes get to the places that they need to go, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, whether it's, you know, to visit friends and family. Transit allows us opportunities to be able to do that. It also enables people to age in place across their region. And then I think just thinking about the economic mobility, right? Connecting individuals to essential services or to jobs. So I think something that we're all acutely aware of here is that post-COVID, we experienced extreme declines in transit service across the region here. And so we're looking here at a chart that looks at both CTA, Metra, and PACE all together. But really, ridership fell by as much as about 80% early on in the pandemic. We're recovering, but transit ridership is still down about 40% on the entire system overall here. You know, we've seen buses be more stable and sustainable than our heavy rail system that we have, our commuter rail system, largely due to shifts in how people are working across the region. You know, we don't expect our transit ridership to fully recover, and so we're sort of trying to figure out, is this a new baseline, and what is that new baseline here? But one of the things that complicates the way that we pay for the operations of transit is the fact that system-generated revenue is required to be about half of the operations funding for transit. So early on during the pandemic, the federal government passed some aid and relief. That aid is set to expire probably towards the end of 2025, but definitely in 2026 will be going away. So you can see on this chart here in the purple, right now it's making up about 21% of system operating revenues here across the region. And we don't think that there's a strong likelihood of the federal government coming in and helping to continue to fill that gap for us here. So in the absence of state action, one of the things that we've been talking to folks about is that the transit agencies can't solve this problem on their own. It becomes this sort of vicious circle of activities. So in order to achieve a 20% operating reduction on transit, that equates to about a 40% cut in operations, largely because transit agencies have fixed assets that they must continue to maintain. And so, you know, when you cut service, you lose ridership, you lose those revenues, which leads to more people not choosing to take transit across our region. So I think one of the things that we're trying to stay ahead of here, and we have a little bit of runway, is to get these recommendations out there to the state to be talking about heading off this fiscal cliff before it happens in 2026. So again, this just brings me to the legislation that we're working under here, is that, you know, when the General Assembly asked us to look at this, they didn't just ask us to look at one thing, they asked us to look holistically at our transit system. They asked us to look at the long-term financial viability of the system, safety, security, cleanliness, efficiency, but that we really should be thinking about our transit system as a future asset, and we should be thinking about how it can help us address racial equity, how it can help us solve some of our climate change challenges that we have, and that we need to be thinking about sort of that economic future that we want, that economic stability, and how transit can help us enable that. So we're looking at the recovery ratio for transit. We're looking at sales tax formula and other distributions that we use today and where they might be modified. We're looking at other states and how they fund transit as well, thinking about a regional fare system again, but then any other, of course, they're like everything else. Look at all of the enabling legislation, the policy, the rules, and funding. So we're digging in on all of this right now. And we've developed a series of principles to guide these conversations in conversations with the bill sponsors that we had here. Again, top of mind is really making sure that the system is financially viable beyond 2026 and in 2026. Identify recommendations. Again, this is a report to the General Assembly where they have a role in implementing solutions. I think we've also heard too that the transit system in 2019 was not all that desirable, right? It did a lot of good things in terms of getting people to the downtown, but I think when we are out talking to folks across the region, whether it's employers or whether it's, healthcare providers or facilities that have conventions, they know that there were deficits in the system before. So how can we set our transit system up to be stronger than it was during the pandemic or before the pandemic? That we're thinking about the users of the system as we think about and develop these recommendations. And then finally, we were told to be bold. So again, I wanted to just sort of highlight for you all who is engaged in this process. So the legislation says that the CMAP board and the MPO policy committee will vote on these recommendations before they get sent to the General Assembly here. So we have on our CMAP board, we have 5 appointments from the city of Chicago, 5 from Cook County, and 5 from the collar counties here. Right now, the DuPage County representative is a former board member, Jim Healy. And then starting in July, it will be Burr Ridge Mayor Grasso will be your representative to the CMAP board. I also wanted to highlight too that Chair Conroy sits on our MPO policy committee as well. It's chaired by the Secretary of Transportation, but all the counties sit on this because you have such an important role in regional transportation conversations, along with all the implementing agencies, CTA, Metra, PACE, RTA, the Tollway, and we have our federal partners at the table here as well. And finally, as we developed this project, the legislation stated that we should have a steering committee of business, civic, and labor organizations as well. So we did our best to make sure that we were being geographically representative, but also to bring in that business voice and economic voice across the region as well. So I'm going to touch on the rest of my time here, spending a little bit of time talking about the scope of the report, and hopefully get some reactions either here today or facilitated through your board chair or through your professional staff here, Chris Schneider, who sits at our transportation committee as well. We've been working on this report in 3 components here. The first is thinking about the system we want and what it should look like. And I think one of the strong points here is that we need to rebuild confidence in the public transit system here moving forward to make sure that people have a seamless experience when they engage with our transit system as well. But I think I want to highlight just a couple of the recommendations that are coming out emerging from these conversations. One, that better bus service is what folks are interested in. Again, buses saw continued high ridership numbers throughout the pandemic. Buses aren't on fixed rail, so they can be more mobile and they can do some more innovative pilots across the region. That folks want a universal system that's accessible, that's able to mobilize and move our ADA users across the system, that dial-a-ride is really important, that we should be thinking about technology to solve some of these challenges. We've also heard that there is a desire for operational efficiencies and thinking about electrification of our bus system as well. And then cleanliness, safety, and security has also been top of mind as well, and I know it's been in the news, but thinking about ambassadors, right? Sometimes it's hard to know when you go to a new place how to get on the transit system. So thinking about maybe there's some things that other cities are doing that we could be doing here. Just one more slide on the system we want here is that fare integration is also something we've heard loud and clear. We have 3 separate systems, and I know that the counties also run other transit, but I'm mostly talking about CTA, Metra, and PACE here. You can buy a Ventra card, but the cost to ride is different on all of those systems. And I think one of the things we've heard loud and clear is an integrated card or payment or user fee for these things would be very beneficial and go a long ways towards making it easier for people to understand how to use our transit system here in the region. Regional rail is another concept that's been put on the table for our Metra riders. This is really thinking about the Metra line as more of a European-style line that doesn't just serve the AM and the PM rush, but really is available throughout the day on a memorable schedule. Perhaps it's every hour, or every 5 minutes after the hour, but that you know when it's coming and you're able to get to places that aren't just on sort of the morning rush and the PM rush, because we're seeing people begin to use the rail system throughout the day. And on weekends, actually, ridership has grown as well over the past few months here. And then thinking a little bit about the land use. I know we have housing challenges in our region that we know that we want to attract more businesses, and we're hearing from businesses that their workers may not be able to find the types of houses or even the availability of houses here in our region. So are there things that we can be doing? We know that land use is locally controlled, but identifying corridors where maybe we have incentives and transit paired together. So the next section of the report will be focused on how to pay for it, everybody's favorite topic here. But as we get into this, it's really looking at the shortfall in the operating budget. Again, thinking about new or modified services, thinking about system-generated revenues as well. We know that some systems have done a good job of keeping pace with inflation, whereas perhaps the Chicago Transit Authority hasn't necessarily kept pace with inflation as well. Are there things that we can be putting in place, recommendations that we can be providing to the General Assembly to help make sure that our transit fares are equitable across the region too? Are there operational and structural savings? As we go through this process, we have heard loud and clear that, asking the General Assembly for more funding is just going to be a non-starter unless we're talking about reforms to the systems that we have today. So we're digging in on savings from cost improvements across the systems that we have, thinking about service adjustments, how that might impact budgets and the bottom line there as well. This is sort of a wonky thing, but the fare box recovery ratio, I started by talking and saying that 50% of operating funds must come from the fare box, and that's legislated, it's state mandated. We have the highest operating recovery ratio of all states and all public transit systems. It's set at 50%. The next highest is about at 30%. So thinking about whether or not that's a metric we want to use for funding or a metric we want to use for a performance measure as part of the conversations we've been having as well. And then lastly, I know I mentioned that we aren't anticipating additional federal funding, but we do think that there are things that the federal government can be doing, and we will continue to keep that on top of our legislative agenda here. But I don't think by 2026, the time we're facing this fiscal cliff, we expect that federal funding will be something that we can depend on here for our challenges. And so that last bucket of recommendations that we're working on for this report is how to implement it, right? So we're thinking about the system we want and the refinements that we want to make. We're thinking about how we might raise revenues to be able to do that or support through operational savings as well. That we're thinking about the governance structures that exist today, the funding distributions, and how we might do that. So, really thinking about, the funds that we have today are distributed through the Regional Transportation Authority. Are there changes to the way those funds are distributed today? They've historically been driven by older formulas. We are in a modern time. Is it time to go back and look at that and take a second look at how our systems are operating and what the performance measures are that we want to put in place? Again, thinking about system governance as well. Each of these entities have their own separate boards with different appointing authorities. So we've been going through and talking about, what are the challenges and what governance reforms or structural changes might we want to put on the table here. And again, really changing that fare box recovery ratio is also part of this how to implement it conversation. So I think in terms of next steps here, the report is due to the General Assembly on January 1st, 2024. So we aren't quite halfway through our project, but we're getting there. We're at the point in time where we're doing focus groups with folks across the region, business, civic, environmental organizations, community-based organizations as well, to better understand what they would like to see. But really, it is on the agenda for every one of my board meetings, our MPO policy committee meetings, and steering committee meetings. We will have a series of white papers on each of these proposed reforms or proposed funding opportunities. Again, we recognize that the tax system and structure here in the state of Illinois is complicated. So, thinking about where there are opportunities to modernize that as well, and we'll be debriefed in some of these white papers and videos. And then, again, I mentioned we've been doing some focus groups with folks across the region. So I'm out talking to county boards because you all have an important role to play in the long-term sustainability of our transit system, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have today, but also happy to come and talk to you all at the appropriate transportation committee or other places where we might want to delve into some of these details. I know I covered a lot of ground here, so thank you for your attention.
Okay. Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chair Conroy. And thanks for your presentation today. I know how important this is to the people that we often talk about, people that work in DuPage but can't afford to live here, and I think that you're a part of that is very important. So I'm not a budget wonk, and so I appreciate all those here that are. But this morning, we unanimously approved discontinuing the impact fee. That has raised $70 million over 35 years. And I'm wondering if, rather than discontinuing that, we can help those funds to make sure that transportation is available to those who need it the most in our county.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Don't the impact fees have to go to certain uses, and we can't use it for this type of, it is, but we can't, it has very specific
Aaron,
uses.
how are you? Good to see you again. So that's exactly right, Member Chaplin. So impact fees, statutorily, they're required to only be spent on the road network for congestion relief, capacity relief. So it's very prescriptive. It's very prescriptive of how it could be used.
Okay, Member Ozog.
Thank you, Aaron, for your presentation. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Aaron, for your presentation. And we'll look forward to inviting you to come speak to us at the Transportation Committee in the near future. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Member Yu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks so much for your presentation as well. I actually am interested in the focus groups and the public engagement outreach. How are you ensuring that people of color, immigrant communities, other stakeholder organizations are included in this process?
Yeah, thanks for that question. One of the things that, so CMAP covers 7 counties, 284 municipalities, about 8.5 million people live in our region. As we formed our steering committee, one of the things that we wanted to do was make sure that we had folks that were working with minority groups that are working in housing and Latino organizations. So we do have a number of stakeholders that are part of that steering committee that we are using to help us facilitate that. But broader, CMAP has an initiative right now that's called the Community Alliance for Regional Equity. And so we have brought in a group of folks that we are organizations across the region, about 12 of them that we're paying $10,000 a year stipends to for their professional expertise on these issues, folks that work with majority minority communities that represent the region. So we're trying to hit a number of different groups through the networks that we already have. But I will also share too that if there are ideas or suggestions that you have for places that we should be hearing from folks, we are happy to engage and take some feedback from you as well.
Okay, Member Garcia and then Member Guston.
Yeah, hi. I'm excited about a lot of the changes you're doing, and I thank you very much for your presentation. How to pay for it, I'm trying to look on here, and maybe is the infrastructure bill, is that something that is going to help pay for some of this? Or where does that land?
Yeah, good question. So the infrastructure bill that both the state passed in 2019 and also the federal infrastructure bill are really focused on capital infrastructure and not operating infrastructure. So the rules don't necessarily always allow for the flexing of those funds to different places. But I will share that there are some things that our roadway agencies can be doing, like if we're going to think about better bus lanes and networked bus lanes across the region. We do need our road agencies to be making those investments and building up their staff capacity to do more transit operations. But unfortunately, a lot of those capital dollars are required to continue to be used for capital.
Thank you. You had 40% down. Is that 40% overall? That would be bus service and also train service?
It would be, yeah, bus, train, and Pace Metra and CTA.
And what's the dollar figure on that one?
For the cuts, so in 2026, there's an
40%.
estimated $730 million budget gap.
That's a big hole to fill.
It is.
And I agree, Member Ozog, I would love to hear more at the transportation committee meeting. So love to have you come because there's a lot of ideas out there, and then there is also participation, right?
Yeah.
We
Yep.
did find a lot of our buses weren't being used, so we had a lot of buses that were empty that were driving around. So we also want to make sure if we're going to pay for something that people are actually going to use it, and potentially having a relationship with Uber or some other type of company that can supply in those areas that are less likely to use a bus or less likely to have it available to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, thank you, Erin.
Thank you very much. I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Okay, just a short time ago, I sat in on the Finance Committee meeting. Based on that very comprehensive discussion, allow me to convey the following. To this board, our elected officials, and taxpayers, I will take every action within my power as chair to ensure that the DuPage County Clerk's Office takes the necessary steps to ensure its bills are paid. Today, I ask Clerk Jean Kazmarek to appear at the next county board meeting to assure this board her office is in compliance with the requests of our members and that it will maintain transparency in all fiscal matters. I assure each of you that if the necessary actions are not taken to successfully comply with the county's procedures outlined in the Finance Committee meeting, I will seek the advice of the state's attorney to take the next steps to ensure the clerk's office face appropriate penalties, but more importantly, be brought into financial compliance. This statement comes after weeks of meetings and untold hours spent by the staff of our financial department, the auditor, state's attorney's office, and now the Illinois Attorney General. At some point, the clerk acts in compliance with the recommendations of our Illinois Attorney General, or her office faces the consequences. It's that simple. Our message is clear: comply with the appropriate financial procedures, ensure outstanding invoices are paid, and govern according to the policies and procedures we all must adhere to, period. Now, on some much more positive and productive news, today on our agenda, you are asked to consider the repeal of the DuPage County Fair Share Transportation Impact Fee Ordinance. As I outlined at our last meeting, this ordinance was initially adopted by the County Board in 1988, at a time of significant and rapid population and economic growth in the 1990s and the early 2000s. The Division of Transportation recently adopted a long-range transportation plan focuses more on maintaining a state of good repair, safety, operational enhancements, and expanding our multimodal network, and less upon system expansion. As DuPage County has matured, the transportation priorities have shifted. The need to continue to collect county highway impact fees has diminished. An approval today to repeal the ordinance will save developers, businesses, and residents hundreds of thousands of dollars each year. It reflects the value of good governance our citizens have come to expect, and it's just one more positive reason why families choose to live in DuPage and businesses continue to choose to locate here in DuPage County. I hope you will join me in supporting this repeal. Okay, on to the matter of public comment. According to the County Board rules, members of the public shall be afforded time to address the board. Individual remarks shall not exceed 3 minutes in length, nor shall the total time provided for all remarks exceed 30 minutes. Our first speaker is
Paula McGowan.
Good morning, County Board members and Chairwoman Deb Conroy. My name is Paula McGowan. On March 22nd, 2023, I received a very disturbing phone call from a reliable source. They just received a call from Sheriff Mendrick describing his anger at me and was told to stay away from me. She's trouble, a Democrat, and friends with Democrats on the county board, mentioning one in particular. That I helped the Democrat county clerk run against the Republican candidate in the last election. The source told me Mendrick was very mad, saying that I had recorded his speech at Cooper's Corners in Winfield on March 19th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. and leaked it out to the Chicago Tribune, which wrote an article on it that appeared on the front page that same day. I couldn't understand why I was being blamed for something that I had known nothing about, that provoked Sheriff Mendrick's bizarre behavior towards me. I got off the phone with my source and began my own investigation. It only took a few minutes to find out how Mendrick had become confused with both of these events. It turns out the only political event I attended was Winfield at a restaurant. The event that precipitated the earlier speech from Mendrick occurred at a restaurant in Wayne on an earlier date that resulted in the Tribune article. The only thing that these two towns have for me is they both begin with a W. Sheriff Mendrick is defaming me, damaging my reputation, spreading untrue accusations on me. I live in unincorporated Glen Ellen, where he has the sheriff's jurisdiction. He is a very vindictive individual, and I fear for the safety of my family and myself. You have better fish to fry, and that's your responsibility, Sheriff Mendrick, in that jail, where you have some very concerning issues. Sheriff Mendrick, you are a disgrace to your profession. Thank you.
The next speaker is Brian Palm.
Thank you for the chance to talk to you today, and thank you all the members of the board for serving the public. I know it's not an easy task to take. My name is Brian Palm. I'm a long-term resident of DuPage County, and I'm a privileged member of the board of directors at the Main Street Organization of Realtors. I'm here to speak in favor of passage of Ordinance 5123, or the Road Impact Ordinance, which I believe is item 18H on your agenda today. The Main Street Organization of Realtors represents more than 20,000 licensed realtors in the Chicagoland area. Among our efforts in DuPage County, we have continually represented homeowners and business owners on the Road Impact Fee Committee, reviewing projects, projecting deficiencies, and ensuring good government. Today, I urge you to support the repeal of the Road Impact Fee Ordinance. The ability to use these funds has changed over the years as the landscape of DuPage has changed, and as your chair has eloquently stated today. Today, there are very few opportunities to effectively use these funds as intended. While road impact fees have served a purpose in the past, today they simply stand as a barrier to economic vitality and home ownership. The time has come to remove these fees and save homeowners and DuPage County taxpayers the time and expense these fees incur. I encourage you to vote in favor of the ordinance to repeal the road impact fees. Thank you very much for your time.
The next speaker is Heidi Bolger.
Good morning. My name's Heidi Bolger, and I am the broker and owner of Coldwell Banker Gladstone Realtors in Lisle. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning on behalf of Main Street Organization of Realtors in support of the ordinance D2-0-0051-23. The Realtor Association has sat on the county's Road Impact Fee Advisory Committee since it was first impaneled in the 1980s. Each year, realtors stood with county officials to ensure that the road impact fee was administered to the benefit of homeowners and business owners. Today, we urge you to repeal the road impact fee ordinance because the administrative costs of maintaining the ordinance outweigh the fees collected. The ability to effectively utilize these funds has decreased given the growth of the county since the 1980s. While it has served its purpose in the past, today it stands as a barrier to home ownership and economic vitality. I encourage you to vote in favor of this ordinance. Thank you.
Okay, the board has received public comment via our online portal. Per board policy, those comments were provided to members yesterday so they could be reviewed. The comments submitted electronically will be included in the minutes of this meeting. And now for the consent agenda. 23-1780, 5-5-2023 pay list. 23-1811, 5-9-2023 pay list. 23-1880, 5-12-2023 pay list. 23-1890, 5-16-2023 pay list. 23-1832, 5/11/2023 IDOR wire transfer, 23/17/74 5/4/2023 Corville wire transfer, 23/18/50 change orders to various contracts as specified in the attached packet, 23/18/30 recorder's monthly revenue, April 2023. All in favor?
I'll move to approve.
Move to approve second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I need a motion. Okay? Okay, second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and on to Vice Chair Childress and County Board.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today I move on your behalf on item 8A, the appointment of Sarah.
Second?
Then I hate to butcher her name, Sublicki, to the Wheaton Sanitary District.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Childress.
Yes.
Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans. Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. And Chaplin.
Vice
Aye.
Chair Childress.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on the appointment of Wilford Perot to the Glenbard Fire District.
A second most favorable roll?
Leave is granted. Vice Chair Childress.
I also move on your behalf for Timothy Kapua to the Lyle Woodridge Fire Protection District.
Leave?
Okay, we have a question from Member Krajewski.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to vote no on this item today. And I know I was out of town, but I did talk to the chair yesterday. I appreciate you taking my phone call, and we discussed this appointment. The following one also with regards, one was a reappointment, the other is a new person and a non-appointment. The chairman, you did explain very well, your thoughts behind it. I understand a couple of items. I know this is new as far as you've only been here a few months and you have all these appointments to do. You relied a lot on staff. We talked about you reached out to the district members, District 2, but Woodridge, that's the Lyle, but the Woodridge is District 3, and I appreciate going forward. I think, you're going to be reaching out to board members, which is great. I also defer, especially on ones that are in my district, to my mayors. I think going forward, I think you'll be speaking on that. So again, I appreciate, the talk and conversation on it. I am going to be voting no, but I understand it's your appointment, and I understand the reasons behind, what you were doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Krajewski. I think we need a motion in a second.
Yeah, second.
Okay. Clerk, please take the roll.
Childress.
Yes.
Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia.
Aye.
Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. And Chaplin.
Aye.
Eleven voting aye, 7 voting nay.
Motion passes. Okay, Vice Chair Childress.
I also move on your behalf to appoint Joan Costin to the Lyle
Second.
Woodridge Fire Protection District.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Okay, leave is granted. Roll call. I'm sorry.
Childress.
Yes.
Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans. Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. And Chaplin.
Aye.
Okay, Vice Chair Childress.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also move on your behalf to appoint Anne Marie Testa to the Salt Creek.
Second most favorable roll?
Leave is granted. Vice Chair Childress.
And finally, I move to expand the Board of Review appointment to 11 members, and the list will be attached.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Vice Chair Childress. And on to Finance and Member Liz Chaplin.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair. Just under my chairman's remarks, I just want to congratulate and thank you for your leadership on moving to repeal those impact fees. As we heard from some of the members of the public, I think it's a great step forward, and it's going to just be beneficial to everybody on the whole. Secondly, we had some good discussion on our finance meeting. You know, we're moving forward with our budget calendar and our budget policies, so that's some important work that we got done today as we move forward to budget session. So with that, I move approval on FIR 013623 budget transfers from various companies and counting units, with the exception of a budget transfer for the Illinois Voter Registration System grant in a total of $339,784, has identified in the Finance Committee item has 23-1900, which was not approved in Finance.
Okay.
Is that how I should have done that? No. Oh, I'm sorry, 9E. Oh, I thought that was that one. I'm sorry, 9E. Oh, right there, various companies and counting units. Oh, we did transfer policies. Okay. So I move approval, of the transfer policies.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans. Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. Yu. Zay. And Cahill.
Okay. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 013823, approval of bank depositories, Treasurer's Office.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 013923, approval of the 2024 budget calendar.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 014023, acceptance and approval of the 2024 DuPage County financial and budget policies.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of item FIR 014023, budget transfers from 52323, various companies and accounting units, with the exception of a budget transfer for the Illinois Voter Registration System grant in the total of $339,784, as identified in Finance Committee as item 23-1900, which was not approved in Finance.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of 23-1824, supervisor of assessment staff to attend State of Illinois Property Appeal Board hearings in Springfield, Illinois from June 12, 2023 to June 14, 2023, not to exceed $700.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Chaplin.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, now we'll have an update from Animal Services Chair, Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Real quick, we just got done with giving DuPage, and again, I think third year in a row, the DuPage Animal Friends were the #1 fundraiser. They exceeded their goal of $50,000. Thank the board members and the public who donated, but that'll come into good use at Animal Services. So I want to thank the board for the hard work and everybody who contributed, as they raised over $50,000 in that 1 week.
Congratulations. Okay, and on to Economic Development and Member LaPlante.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a really good news update for economic development. First, we're going to start with WorkNet DuPage. As everyone knows, we celebrated Mother's Day earlier this month, and I wanted to recognize the many mothers across the county that have partnered with WorkNet DuPage to start, restart, or change careers over the past year. Here are just a few examples. The single mom of 3 who got her truck driving license started her own LLC and is now running flatbed loads, making a tremendous income. A married mother of 2 who was able to update her skills as a graphic designer and re-enter full-time employment now that her kids are both in school. The single mom who was homeless with her 5-year-old daughter when she first came to WorkNet, and who 3 years later has obtained her bachelor's degree in software development at Lewis University and is entertaining job offers from Google and the Department of Defense. All these women and many more like them have demonstrated the hard work, perseverance, and courage to pursue their career goals and provide better futures for themselves and their families. And we thank the team at WorkNet DuPage and all their partners throughout the county that have played a role in this success. And then the other big news is we passed unanimously
bipartisan support for a brand-new feasibility study that we're going to be doing to look into sports and arts and culture in DuPage County. This is very exciting. This is a wonderful opportunity to seek out areas and room for growth and development and economic development in DuPage County. So I'd like to thank all of my colleagues on the county board who supported this initiative, and we are looking very much forward to sharing the news with you after we complete and conduct our feasibility study. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And on to we have environmental and Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chair Conroy. Just a couple of items this morning. I'll invite all of our members to pay attention to the committee meetings for environmental. In June, we'll be having a presentation on plastic pollution, and it's kind of crazy. I've heard this presentation already, and you're going to walk out of there going, oh my God, it's everywhere. And then we've also asked Greg Bedloff to come and give us an update on the Sustain DuPage initiative, so we'll be looking for that once we figure out if we're meeting in July or August, so it'll come in there. But that's all I have today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Human Services, Member Schwarzy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to announce today we are officially accepting applications for our small agency grant program to assist small human services nonprofits in our county. As you know, this program will provide grants of less than $25,000 to county agencies that provide programs and services in the areas of economic development, including job readiness and literacy, education and mentoring, housing and shelter, behavioral health services, substance use disorder treatment, or food assistance. We'll be putting out a press release on this tomorrow that includes the link to the application portal, eligibility, information, and more. And information about the program will also be available on the website. This application portal will be open for 60 days, at which point each of the 3 district board members will review at that point and be able to decide which grants they prefer to give. It'll still have to come through the Human Services Committee. So if you have any questions, please ask. With that being said, I move to approve item HSCO 923, an amendment issued to LifeScan Laboratories of Illinois for patient phlebotomy and lab services for the DuPage Care Center for the period September 20th, 2022 through September 19th, 2023 to increase encumbrance in the amount of $15,000, a 75% increase. This is an ARP item.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Schwarzy.
Aye.
Tornatori. Aye. You.
Aye.
Lezay. Aye. Cahill. Aye. Chaplin. Childress.
Yes.
Covert. Aye. Desart. Aye. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Aye. Garcia. Aye. Guston. Aye. Krajewski. Aye. LaPlante. Aye. Ozog. Aye. And Rutledge. Aye.
Member Schwarzy.
Thank you. I move to approve item HSCO 1023, amendment issued to KCI USA Inc. for rental of wound vac therapy and medical supplies for wound and skin care for the DuPage Care Center for the period January 26, 2023 through January 25th, 2024 to increase encumbrance in the amount of $45,500, a 304.35% increase.
Leave is granted. Member Schwarzy.
Madam Chair, I would like to combine items 13C, 13D, 13E, and 13F, which are all travel for training to the Community Services Block Grant and Weatherization mandated fund training.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please. Oh, to combine them all.
To combine them.
To combine them all. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. I move to approve item 231840, a travel request for Community Services Administrator to attend the annual Community Services Block Grant and Weatherization mandated grant funding training in Springfield, Illinois from June 6, 23 through June 8, 23. Expenses to include lodging, miscellaneous expenses, and per diem for the approximate total amount of $622. I move to approve item 231841, travel request for Community Services Manager to attend the annual Community Services Block Grant and Weatherization mandated grant funding training in Springfield, Illinois from June 6, 23 through June 8, 23. Expenses to include lodging and per diem for approximate total amount of $347. This employee will not incur travel costs because they're traveling with the administrator. I move to approve item 231842, a travel request for Community Services Supervisor to attend the annual Community Services Block Grant and Weatherization mandated grant funding training in Springfield, Illinois from June 7, 23 through June 8, 23. Expenses to include lodging, miscellaneous expensive, parking, gasoline, county vehicle, et cetera, and per diem for approximate total amount of $263.50. And finally, I move to approve item 23-1843, travel request for community services weatherization coordinator to attend the annual community services block grant and weatherization mandated grant funding training in Springfield, Illinois from June 7, 23 through June 8, 23. Expenses to include lodging and per diem for approximate total of $188.50. All these are SBG grant funded.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Schwarze. And Judicial and Public Safety, Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on item JPSR 006023, recommendation for the approval of an addendum to resolution JPSR 002 23, intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and the County of Kane for housing and detention services for minors to modify the insurance coverage to reflect excess coverage in the amount of $20 million with a $1 million self-insurance retention.
It has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin. Childress.
Yes.
Covert. Desart. And Eckhoff.
Okay, Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on JPSP 005323, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Nestor Evaristo as a veteran mentor coordinator to develop a veteran peer mentor program for the period May 30th, 2023 through May 29th, 2024 for a contract total amount not to exceed $37,500.
It was granted. Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on item 23-1857. Authorization is requested for overnight travel for 2 emergency management specialists to attend the Multi-Agency Resource Center training at the ILS Training Center in Urbana, Illinois. The dates of travel are May 30th, 2023 through May 31st, 2023. This training will provide an overview of the MARC goals, setup, and operations. It is important for these specialists to attend this training as they are responsible for coordinating the development of DuPage County's Multi-Agency Resource Center plan development. The cost to DuPage County for both staff members will be $509.10 for gasoline, lodging, and meals.
Leave is granted. Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on item 23-1858. Authorization is required for the OHSEM Communications Unit leader to attend a Communications Unit Program Working Group at the ILS Training Center in Urbana, Illinois. The dates of travel are June 7th, 2023 through June 8th, 2023. Lodging and meals are provided, no cost to DuPage County.
Leave is granted. Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on item 23-1859. Authorization is required for overnight travel for Rapid Com 4 and 2 OHSEM reservists to fulfill a mutual aid request from IEMA supporting Madison County Emergency Management Agency with Public Safety Communications. The dates of travel are June 2nd, 2023 through June 4th, 2023. Madison County will provide lodging while DuPage County covers the cost of fuel and per diems for both reservists in the amount of $665.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Evans. And on to Legislative and Member Desart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee update from our lobbyists in DC. It is crunch time. You can't turn on the TV or the radio without hearing about this. For Congress and the President as they race to find an agreement to increase the debt ceiling. The Department of Treasury has said the debt ceiling must be increased by early June. I've heard June 1st, or the federal government will not be able to pay its bills. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen once again warned that a failure to act could have incredible negative economic consequences. So what's going on in Springfield? This is from ISECO. The lack of a state fiscal year 2024 budget agreement means the General Assembly did not adjourn by their self-imposed May 19th deadline. This was always a soft deadline as the General Assembly has until June 1st before a supermajority vote is required to pass legislation with an immediate date effective. The fiscal year, by the way, for Illinois begins July 1st. A major hang-up, perhaps you've heard about this, is the health care program for undocumented immigrants. The cost of the program far exceeded what estimates predicted, now over $1 billion in total cost. so the General Assembly and the Governor are working through potential solutions. The General Assembly is scheduled to come back to work in Springfield on Wednesday to continue to work on the budget. Immediately following this meeting, the Legislative Committee will convene. We'll take a 5-minute break and then meet right after this meeting with our Springfield lobbyist, Mark Polis, on how the other bills fared that are part of our DuPage County agenda. It should be interesting, so I hope that you'll come with your questions. And finally, locally, I just wanted to remind everybody that DuPage County will host a ceremony in observance of Memorial Day. It'll be held at 2 o'clock this Sunday at the DuPage County Government Complex here in Wheaton. The ceremony will take place outside at the Veterans Memorial located near the pond on the DuPage County Government campus. I hope it's well attended. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member Dessart. And on to Public Works and Member Garcia.
Thank you, Chair Conroy. As a committee update, I did want to say that in our committee last week, we had a great presentation on the plan for EV chargers that are coming to the county, so I'm very excited about that. We also had a great conversation about the DuPage Historical Museum and changes that will be going there, and the Heritage Gallery update. So I think there'll be more discussion at our next Public Works Committee, so I would encourage everybody that's interested in those of it to come and ask her questions. Moving on, I move for approval of PWR 000323, recommendation for the approval of an easement agreement between the County of DuPage and Forest Preserve District of DuPage County, providing the operation and maintenance of existing sanitary interceptors within portions of the Waterfall Glen Forest Preserve.
It has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Garcia.
Aye.
Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin. Childress. Covert. Dessart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
And Galassi.
Okay, Member Garcia.
We'll move for approval of PWP 003523, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Rapid View LLC for parts and labor to repair the IBAC sewer and televising camera for the Public Works for the period of May 23rd, 2023 to May 31st, 2027 for a contract total not to exceed $60,000.
Leave is granted. Member Garcia.
I move for approval of FMP 006623, recommendation for the approval of a contract to AMS Mechanical Systems, Inc. to furnish and install natural gas piping replacements and upgrades to the gas main and meter at the power plant for facilities management for the period of May 23rd, 2023 through May 22nd, 2024 for a total contract amount not to exceed $125,837.
Leave is granted. Member Garcia.
I move for approval of FMP 006723, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Earthworks Land Improvement and Development Corporation for construction of stormwater detention and best management practices projects at the East Campus Detention Basin for facilities management for numerous building construction projects for the period of May 23rd, 2023 through December 15th, 2025 for a total lump sum amount of $2,793,517.
Leave is granted. Member Garcia.
And finally, I move for approval of FMP 006823, recommendation for the approval of an agreement between the County of DuPage, Illinois, and V3 Companies Limited to provide Phase 3 professional stormwater engineering services and engineering design for campus projects for facilities management for the period of May 23rd, 2023 through December 15th, 2025 for a total contract amount not to exceed $241,095.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Garcia. And moving on to technology and Member Yu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on TEP 005423, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Physicians Record Company to furnish and deliver printed carbonless NCR forms for various county offices, including the Supervisor of Assessments, Coroner, Sheriff, Regional Office of Education, Public Defender, Clerk of the Circuit Court, Transportation, Probation. This contract covers the period of June 1, 2023 to May 31, 2024 for a contract total amount of $42,000.
It has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin. Childress. Covert. Dessart. Eckhoff. Evans. Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. And Tornatori.
Okay, Member Yu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On item 231891, I move to discharge Technology and Finance Committees of a authorization request to have a staff member attend a site visit to Lee County, Florida from 5/30/2023 to 5/31/2023 as a part of a PRMS group to view the on-call records application. Lee County is the only agency in the country using version 10.0, and DuPage County will be upgrading to that version this year, and the total cost is $706.60.
Okay, all in favor of discharge of tech and okay, the committees are discharged. Member you.
Thank you. And finally, I move on the request to have a staff member to attend a site visit to Lee County, Florida from May 30, 2023 to May 31, 2023 as part of the PRMS group to view the on-call records application for version 10.0, and DuPage County will be upgrading to that version, and the total cost is $706.60.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member you. And on to transportation and Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last Friday, Chairman Conroy, myself, John Loper, Metro Board Member Wes Beckton were able to tour the Metro shops and control towers, and we also got to ride in a locomotive cab. It was a wonderful day. I want to particularly thank Cheryl Marquet for her part and everyone at Metro who arranged this trip for us. We learned so much, and it was interesting because they thought we knew a lot more about rebuilding cars than one might have thought. So it was a really great day. So I want to thank especially Cheryl for arranging this. Now I want to move ahead with lots of business here. I'd like to move to approve DTR 006923, intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and Wayne Township Road District for the 2023 road maintenance program. No county cost.
It has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Ozog.
Yes.
Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You. Zay. Cahill. Chaplin. Childress.
Yes.
Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans. Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. And LaPlante.
Okay, Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of DTP 007323, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Precise MRM LLC for fleet tracking equipment and service agreement for the Division of Transportation for the period June 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024 for a contract total not to exceed $34,000, not suitable for competitive bids, sole source.
Leave is granted. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of DTP 007223, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Kevin's Auto and Diesel Repair for on-call repair service and repair parts for trucks and plows as needed for the Division of Transportation for the period June 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024. Contract total not to exceed $30,000, first of 3 renewals.
Leave is granted. Member Ozog.
Thank you. Move for approval of DTP 007623, recommendation of approval of a contract to Tecma Associates for professional construction engineering services for various improvements for the period May 23rd, 2023 through November 30th, 2025 for a contract total not to exceed $500,000, professional services vetted through a qualification-based selection process.
It has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Ozog.
Yes.
Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You. Zay. Cahill. Chaplin. Childress. Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans. Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. And LaPlante.
Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of DTP 007523, recommendation for the approval of contract to Gonzalez Companies LLC to provide professional construction engineering services upon request of the Division of Transportation for the period May 23rd, 2023 through November 30th, 2025 for a contract total not to exceed $500,000, professional services vetted through qualification-based selection process.
Okay, we're going to need a roll call here.
Ozog.
Yes.
Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You. Zay. Cahill. Chaplin. Childress.
Yes.
Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans. Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. And LaPlante.
Okay, Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of DTP 007123, recommendation for the approval of contract to Complete Fleet Services Incorporated for on-call repair service and repair parts for diesel trucks and plows as needed for the Division of Transportation for the period June 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024 for a contract not to exceed $30,000. First of three renewals.
Leave is granted. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of DTP 007423, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Compass Minerals America Incorporated to furnish and deliver bulk rock salt as needed for the Division of Transportation for the period June 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024, for a contract total amount of $1,331,270 per lowest responsible bid, subject to 3 one-year renewals.
Leave is granted. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I'm pleased to move to approve DTO 005123, recommendation to appeal DTO 1688, the DuPage County Fair Share Transportation Impact Fee Ordinance, and adopt the DuPage County Fair Share Transportation Impact Fee Administration Ordinance.
Okay, we have a question from Member Krajewski.
Thank you. No, I'm just happy
comment.
about this ordinance coming forward, and thanking the members that spoke regarding economic impact. And I did get this truck moved over from Don Pachowski when he left. It's got Don on it, but it actually is Edward Don, the truck Edward Don. And back in 2010, Edward Don was looking to leave the city of Chicago because of the sales tax. They could not compete with companies from outside the state of Illinois that only had a charge of 6% on hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment, and Cook County was charging 10%. So they made the decision to go maybe to Wisconsin. They started looking in also DuPage County, Will County, because they had no impact fee. Greg Bedeloff had just taken over as the Choose DuPage head of Choose DuPage. He had some relationships and said, why don't you look in Woodridge in this industrial park to bring in your company, Edward Don, which in addition to an industrial park had its sales force there, and they were selling $500 million worth of equipment out of that specific place. The sales tax is about $600,000 a year for our county. That now, since they've been here since 2010, has generated over $7 million for the county of DuPage. It's more than paid for Mr. Bedeloff's Choose DuPage for the entire time he's there. And that's in addition to we only get a half a cent, but Woodridge gets a full percent. But the one sticking point they didn't even want to look at DuPage County was because Will County, which is right next door, I-55, had no impact fee. It was a couple $100,000. And I remember talking with the transportation chairman, Don Pachowski, went to staff. It's like, we got to get rid of this impact fee or they're not going to come here. Staff was able to create a way to get around because of off hours with these trucks. But just the potential, that was one instance, it's generated over $7 million that they may not even have come here had it not been for getting rid of this impact fee at that time. But again, I think this is great. It's going to help economic development, especially when all the Collar counties do not have this impact fee. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Krajewski. Leave is granted. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of 23-1691, DTR 0, I'm sorry, we did.
Yeah, we did leave.
Oh, so we did, did we do leave?
We had moved for leave. Do you want a roll call? Oh. We can do it, we'll do it again for you, Brian. Let's do it one more time for Brian. Okay.
All right.
Leave is granted. Member Ozog.
Okay. Okay, we have double eliminated it. Yes, thank you. Okay, I move for approval of 23-1691 DTR 0211A22. Amendment to DTR 021122, issued to Utility Dynamics Corporation for the street lighting improvements along Fabian Parkway, Section 22, I didn't mean to go into that, we don't need the section, to increase the funding in the amount of $625.72, resulting in an amended contract of $105,240.42.
Leave is granted. Member Ozog.
Okay, I move for approval of DTR 0382A22, amendment to resolution DTR 038222, between the County of DuPage and R.W. Duntman for the Milton Township Lambert Road improvements, correction of project section number.
Leave is granted. Member Ozog.
Next, I move for approval of to combine items K through P.
Okay, is there,
Can we do all in favor?
Okay.
Okay,
Granted.
items are combined. I now move for approval of 23-1728, heavy equipment crew leader travel to Effingham, Illinois, October 1st, 2023 through October 6th, 2023 to attend the Illinois Public Service Institute Focus on Service Excellence, to provide training in the area of supervisory skills, leadership development, and service excellence. Expenses to include registration, transportation, lodging, and meals for an estimated county cost of $1,855.64. Okay, and I also now move for approval of the next items, which are all going to the same conference, different dates. So I move for approval of 23-17-24, vehicle maintenance supervisor to Effington, Illinois, October 1st, 2023 through October 6th, 2023. Estimated cost $1,855.64. Move for approval of 23-17-25, project engineer to travel to Effingham, Illinois, October 1st through October 6th, to attend the Illinois Public Service Institute focused on service excellence, training in the areas of supervisory skills, leadership development. Expenses to include registration, transportation, lodging, and meals. Estimated county cost of $1,855.64. Move for approval of 23-17-26, heavy equipment crew leader to travel to Effington, Illinois, October 1st, 2023 through October 6th, 2023, to attend the same conference. Expenses of $1,855.64. Move for approval of 23-17-27, heavy equipment crew leader to travel to Effington, Illinois, October 1st, 2023 through October 6th, 2023, to attend the same conference. Expenses of $1,855.64. And finally, I move for approval of 23-17-29, heavy equipment crew leader to travel to Effington, Illinois, same conference, October 1st, 2023 through October 6th, 2023. Estimated county cost $1,855.64. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
It has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Ozog.
Yes.
Rutledge.
Yes.
Schwarzy. Tornatori. You. Zay. Cahill. Chaplin. Childress.
Yes.
Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. And LaPlante.
Okay, thank you, Member Ozog. And now we're going to move to old business. Do we have any members with anything they'd like to say? Member Schwarzy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to make some comments on the vote for the Lyle Woodridge Fire District that came up earlier today, and just offer some of my thoughts. And obviously, you guys know I spent almost 3 decades as a firefighter, paramedic. Most of those were working for a fire district, so I know how important getting the right people into that position. And you know, when we take, as a firefighter, when we take our swearing in oath, we're swearing up to and including death, because firefighters do die on the job at the rate of about 100 per year. And you just saw in Chicago about a month or so ago, 6 weeks ago, 2 firefighters died back to back. Having the best, so take all the politics out of it, having the best candidates being able to sit on a fire district board to make the best possible decisions, not only for the safety of the residents, which obviously comes number one, but for the safety of the firefighters. You know, the on the job deaths occur, but it's the post-career. Firefighters have a 400% higher cancer rate than the general public. The average firefighter lives 10 to 12 years after retirement, and it's due to the cancer rates. So having the best candidates on this board, again, I'm taking all the politics out of it. It doesn't matter who that person is, but the best candidates are there to make the right decisions, to keep the people safe, to keep the firefighters safe. And I'm very proud to support both those candidates that got voted in today. Chair, I think you kept the politics out of it. You picked the 2 best candidates, and I'm very grateful to you for that. And everyone that voted for those candidates should be very proud of themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Schwarzy. Anybody else? Okay, thank you for your service, Member Schwarzy. And just as a comment for all board members, I do, as a chair, believe that firefighters deserve to have a voice at the table. Okay, on to new business. Anybody with new business? Member Galassi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to commend you for your strong comments about the need for the clerk's office to come in compliance, and I just really want to say that I appreciate your leadership on this issue.
Thank you. Member Guston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am ecstatic that we're eliminating the impact fees. I think that will really help with our affordability issue, because those are costs that are actually pushed down onto the consumers. So making that change, I think, is an asset and a benefit to our community, and also to promote some more affordable housing and some market housing. I would love to see potentially there being a recommendation for some type of fast track approval that we could do here at the county when certain developers meet certain criteria. And then that way it can go through the process swiftly. Prices in development, just the product itself, continue to increase. The labor market and the cost of labor is increasing. So if we can keep up and do something in a fast track way to be able to give approval and get these things moving forward, we'll have a lot more successes in our affordability and market priced housing. Thank you.
Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank you for appointing me as chair of the committee to eliminate the impact fee. I think that while there may be a loss of revenue on paper, staff was very adamant that this is difficult money to use appropriately, and that, again, as Member Guston and Member Galassi, everyone has agreed, obviously, that this will be a far better impact not having this fee in our maturing county. Thank you.
Member Yu? Old. No, we're in new. I'm sorry. New. Yes, we are.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to mention that actually June 2nd is National Gun Violence Awareness Day, and Wear Orange is happening that weekend from the 2nd to the 4th, and there are going to be so many events that are honoring gun violence survivors in Illinois and in DuPage County. And so if you would just take a look at the Wear Orange events, and if you have any questions with regard to that, please let me know. But I would really like to just highlight again that this is the 9th National Gun Violence Awareness Day, and considering what is happening in our county and elsewhere, it was really important for me to highlight that. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Yu. Okay, I have some great news to share. We have been informed by the National Association of Counties that DuPage County has been awarded 3 NACO Achievement Awards for our Reinvestment DuPage Small Business Grant Program, the DuPage Community Transformation Partnership, and the DuPage County 18th Judicial Circuit Court Eviction Mediation Program. We will present the awards here at the county board meeting when they arrive, but I wanted to convey this news and say congratulations to all involved in launching and administering these programs. Great job. And as a sidebar, it has been almost... As a brief sidebar, it has been almost 6 months since our new administration and our new board has been seated. And I want you all to know on both sides of the aisle, it has been a privilege to work with all of you. And I look forward to continuing the great successes that we have had so far. Have a great Memorial Day weekend.
Madam Chair, I still had new business.
Oh, you do? I'm so sorry.
Hard to see me back here, I understand.
I need the vice chair to scooch over a little.
Madam Chair, I would like to request an executive session at our next JPS committee meeting with JPS Chair Lucy Chang Evans' discretion, of course, with State's Attorney Bob Berlin to discuss all lawsuits and pending lawsuits regarding the DuPage County Sheriff's Office. Lawsuits our DuPage County taxpayers will have to pay. It is our fiduciary responsibility to support the Sheriff's Office, and I am more than concerned about the current and future lawsuits the Sheriff has potentially ignited. In the past year, there's been an inmate who died in the DuPage County Jail. I was told by Under Sheriff Edmund Moore that he was an elderly gentleman who died of natural causes, only to find out later he was in his 50s, not elderly at all. That sounds like a potential lawsuit. Then there's the inmate who died of a drug overdose in the DuPage County Jail. How are drugs getting into our jail in the first place? Is there any accountability? Again, this sounds like a potential lawsuit to me to be paid for by the taxpayers of DuPage County. There was no transparency in this case at all. Next, an inmate jail staff was arrested for sex and or prostitution in our jail recently, and that sounds like another lawsuit. Then there was a battery with a sock stuffed with soap. Charges are aggravated battery with great bodily harm. Again, this sounds like a potential lawsuit. Other questions remain. I mean, are individuals charged with murder working in the garden when just told us that only low-level inmates were supposed to work at the garden? I'm talking about fiduciary responsibility. And, you know, let's not forget from August 2022 from the Naperville Patch, a DuPage County Sheriff's lieutenant and deputy were found last month, and I'm quoting here, to be improperly using criminal databases while the lieutenants disparaged higher-ups and text messages to his subordinates, according to an internal investigation. And by the way, that confidential report of malfeasance written by Deputy Bilodeau is still online. Patch FOIA'd the information, so it's still online. So my point, Madam Chair, is that the board must hear about all of the lawsuits allegedly against the DuPage County Sheriff's Office because, again, fiduciarily, we are responsible for these lawsuits, pending and otherwise, and I'm personally embarrassed by the DuPage County Sheriff's Office's actions regarding transparency or the lack thereof. Transparency matters, accountability matters, and I request, again, that we hear from Sheriff Mendrick on these matters, and we absolutely must get an accounting from State's Attorney Bob Berlin on current and pending lawsuits and other pending cases that our taxpayers are going to have to pay for. Thank you.
Okay, Member Krajewski.
Thank you. One, I think we just had an executive session a few weeks ago where you guys gave us the updates and they're nodding their heads of the lawsuits that are out there, potential, et cetera. So we just went through that. But if we're going to do it again, I would suggest not be at JPS, but at either a board meeting or finance where all 18 members are there. So I'm not sure why we'd exclude some at JPS. But again, I'm fine with doing that. But I would suggest if we do it at a meeting of all 18 members. And we just had one just recently and they're nodding their heads over there because they just gave us the report. We all got the sheets and had every pending lawsuit, had the reserves set aside, et cetera. So we can do it again if you want, but all 18. Thank you.
Okay, Member Colbert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I'd be very careful as to characterizing what is a lawsuit and what's not a lawsuit. I don't want to have any suggestion or encouragement of a lawsuit against our county, so I'd be very careful with that. I'd be happy to discuss it. I mean, we already went through these cases in executive session, but I really don't want to go onto this road of a smear campaign or anything. We could deal with this internally, but we have to be very careful as to how we characterize things on this floor. Thank you. Okay.
I would be very careful to call my comments a smear campaign. Member Covert, it is my
Okay,
job
Member Desart,
fiduciarily.
we are going to take into consideration
Thank you.
what you would like to
She called
do.
my words a smear campaign, and I take
I
offense
understand.
to that.
I understand. And I'd also agree with Member Krajewski. If we move forward with this, it will be with the entire board. Do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Oh, I'm sorry. Lisa, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say we provided the update with regard to pending cases, not any potential litigation, just to clarify.
Okay, again, and this meeting has been adjourned. When is our next meeting? I lost my.